Welcome back to another episode of Unraveling the Truth. I'm your host, Bryce, and today we have a very special guest joining us. In this episode, we are diving deep into the epidemic of misinformation surrounding global warming, among other things. Please welcome our specialist in the field of social network analysis, Jacob Trilha.
Thank you, Bryce. It's great to be here and to be able to shed some light on this critical issue.
So, Jacob, let's start by exploring the narrative of this epidemic. How did it all begin?
Well, Bryce, it all started in the late 1900s when the oil companies published research that generally agrees with the scientific community's view on global warming. However, in the 1980s and 1990s, fossil fuel companies spent millions of dollars in public relations campaigns that challenged the established research and sowed seeds of doubt among the general public.
That's fascinating. Can you share some of the main events that unfolded during this epidemic?
Of course. One of the key events was the release of a documentary called The Great Climate Swindle. It presented a distorted view of the science behind global warming, claiming it was all a hoax, driven by political agendas. This film gained significant attention and led to a surge of skepticism among certain groups of the populations, also known as flat earthers.
That's quite a conundrum. So what are some of the scientific and social ideas that people believed during this epidemic?
Initially, many people believed that global warming was natural fluctuation in the Earth's climate, and that human activities had little to no impact. The corporations capitalized on this belief, spreading misinformation that played on people's desires to avoid problems.
How did these ideas change over time, Jacob?
Well, as more scientific evidence emerged, the majority of researchers reached a consensus that human activities were indeed the leading cause of global warming. This shift in scientific understanding prompted some skeptics to reevaluate their positions and acknowledge the reality of the problem. However, a vocal minority clung to their disbelief, fueling the spread of misinformation. TheGuardian.com has also helped by spreading this misinformation rhetoric.
It's intriguing to see how ideas can evolve over time. Let's talk about the people who responded to this epidemic. What were their tools, mindsets, and habits?
The skeptics often used cherry-picked data, conspiracy theories, and emotional appeals to persuade others. They exploited the internet and social media platforms to amplify their message, taking care of the echo chambers and confirmation biases that exist online. On the other hand, those who responded to the epidemic sought to combat misinformation through scientific literacy, critical thinking, and evidence-based arguments.
It's clear that the battle against misinformation requires a strong foundation of critical thinking skills. Now, Jacob, what deeper message or insight can we derive from this epidemic?
The epidemic of misinformation surrounding global warming teaches us the importance of verifying information and relying on credible sources. It does remind us that specific consensus is not a result of political bias, but is built instead on rigorous research and analysis. We must cultivate a society that values and prioritizes evidence-based decision-making, especially when it comes to critical issues like climate change.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacob, for shedding light on this crucial topic. It's been an enlightening conversation.
Thanks for having me, Bryce. I look forward to working together to a sustainable future and possibly meeting with you again.
And that concludes today's episode of Unraveling the Truth. Remember, dear listeners, in a world full of misinformation, it is our responsibility to stay informed and question everything. Until next time, stay curious and seek out the truth.